Chit Chat is sponsored by Fun Again Games, where everyone is welcome at our table. And your source for hard-to-find imports, liquidation games, new releases, and much more. Be sure to visit funagain.com to check it out.
On episode 82 of Chit Chat, it's all about the games. We recently broke free of the pandemic and actually got together to play some. At a table. We explored quite a few new experiences, so buckle up, because we're here to tell the tale.
Hey everybody, we're back with Chit Chat episode 83. Like nothing ever just happened. Hopefully you can hear everybody now.
Hopefully the sound good, right?
Okay, we're just going to start things off every week, I think, with a sound check. Can everybody hear me?
Check.
What's crazy, and this is just a little taste of like looking at behind the scenes. I can watch the stream from like behind the scenes. I can watch the stream, and I heard everybody. There was no problem. So
we're getting the thumbs up from Kevin M. All good.
Let's
Excellent.
Let's go.
Hey, Kevin, welcome back. Kevin won a game this week, actually. So it's great to see Kevin back here again. So,
Welcome back, everyone. This is episode 83. If you didn't hear me the first time, you can hear me this time. We are going old school with this episode of Chit Chat, and we are talking about the games. Why? Because just this past weekend, Jeremy Howard, what did you do?
I made a journey. I took my path down to the MVM studios, Said what's up to the guys, said what's up to Indy.
Yes.
Jeremy, it was good vibes. Awesome.
Jeremy hauled his butt down from Milwaukee to join us last weekend, and we played a lot of games. We probably didn't play as many games as we'd kind of ambitiously planned to play. Yeah. But we did play a lot of games, and we had a lot of fun.
Quite a few, and some long games. Yes,
we did play some long games. We'll get to that. Not long and longer than they should be, but they're just long games.
Long games.
So we're going to talk about all these. Some of them are new. Some of them you probably haven't played, at least, maybe not even heard of. But before we get into any of that, we do have a winner from last week. Ryan, what's their name?
Yeah, we do. So congratulations to Brant Sanderson. You are our winner from last week's Chit Chat. And what did we gave away Castles of Burgundy, right?
We believe it was my personal copy of Castles of Burgundy. I'm almost certain of it. We were looking around frantically last week, and I spied my copy of Castles of Burgundy, which happens to be in the exact same space right now. So, Brant, that's yours. All you have to do is email us, send us your address, let us know, hey, I'm here, I won, I want my copy of Castles of Burgundy, and we will send it to you. Tonight, we have a sponsored giveaway, and also, if you didn't notice at the top of the show, a sponsor with Fun Again. Thank you very much for sponsoring all of Chit Chat. But tonight's special sponsor is Cephalofair Games, and we're going to be giving away to one lucky person who comments below or during the live stream or afterwards a copy of Jaws of the Lion, Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, a set of removable stickers for said game, and, get this, a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle for Gloomhaven. Yeah. So it's a big Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion giveaway pack. So all you have to do is comment below, and then we'll pick someone. And that's what we're giving. It's kind of a big deal. I mean, and Ryan's not just wearing the hat because of the sponsor tonight, but
I'm wearing the hat because I like wearing board game merchandise, and I've started going down the rabbit hole earlier today of just finding a ton of board game related hats and shirts and hoodies and things to wear. So,
are we just gonna gloss over the fact that you said bird game first?
Yeah. Did I say bird game?
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. I think Ryan personally. I think Ryan is personally selling his body parts to publishers. Mainly starting with his head.
Cephalofair is giving me $5 to wear this hat. No. Soon it'll be like tattoos and board games. And
I'm giving it to you as long as you wear that hat. As long as you wear that hat.
I want to rotate it at. Actually, I bought a Tantrum House hat today, 25th Century Games hat today, so I'll be cycling them.
I have a lot of content creator gear. Yeah. I like to buy gear. I have one from I have a glass from Ella. I have one from Danny Plays. I have a Quackalope shirt. I've got a lot of I like to have gear from other content creators. So,
speaking of that, speaking of gear and merch, let us know in the comments below whether you think we should have some sort of Man vs. Meeple or MVM merch. Ryan's been on me like, hey, we should have some merch.
I want a hat like this that just says MVM. Boom. Done.
Oh, well, there you go. Maybe we can do that. So let us know what you think. If you'd buy it, that'd be awesome. I tend to think that no one would buy it, but we'll see. Just let us know.
That's how I feel. I'm like, nobody's going to buy this stuff. But they do.
Exactly.
Jessica and James would buy it.
All right.
In the comments. So, anyway, let's get into it.
Yes,
Episode
let's
83.
talk about...
We played a marathon of games while Jeremy was in town. I mean, basically, you got here early in the morning, and we played games all that day, the next day, and so forth. And we
all
played
night.
a ton.
Yeah.
All night, honestly.
Yeah, and we planned to film the thing to 3. I think we filmed a thing.
We definitely filmed a thing.
Saturday we played a thing and we filmed a thing, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that towards the end of the episode and tell you a little bit about it. But we do want to just go over the games that we played. Who wants to start with their first game?
Well, just the first game, or just like one that we really liked?
Yeah, whatever you want, Ryan.
So I'll start with the game that I was maybe most excited about, or like the one that I loved the most, and that was Hadrian's Wall, which we all kind of learned over this weekend, and we played it, Jeremy, 3 times? We played it with David, with Matt
tried
twice.
to play 4.
Yeah, we tried to play 4. We couldn't get that 4th one in. Hadrian's Wall is just a really, really cool game. It's like, I don't really know how to describe it, because it's kind of a roll and write, but it's more like a flip and write. You have these cards that you flip.
Yeah, it's not the best way to describe it is you are flipping cards, but once you flip the card, you're getting some resources and collecting little meeples of different colors, and then also some stone. And what you're using to power the writing part are those things. So you might use a little yellow meeple in order to fill in certain tracks. A blue meeple might do these tracks. Stones might do these other tracks. But the crazy combo-licious aspect of this game is when you're filling in those tracks, and that track gives you another yellow guy or another blue guy or all sorts of things. Right. And you're able to... I don't know that I've ever played, honestly, another blank and write game that just spun into so many combos. Some people could take their turns and just stretch them out. I remember the first night we played, it was just the 3 of us, right?
The first time, yeah.
Ryan would get going right away, so he kind of had a head start. But then he would finish up, and then Jeremy and I would be going for days and days, finishing our turn. And Ryan thought that he was lagging behind and not getting as much done, but he wasn't. He was doing just fine because he beat me handily. You guys were pretty close in that game, though.
It didn't feel like I was doing a lot, but you can do a lot of little things, or you can do a few really big things. And one thing you just mentioned, David, that we kind of glossed over is what I really love about this game. Once you kind of flip the cards and choose your cards from your hand, and you build out all your pool of what you're getting that round, you can do it simultaneously, basically.
Yeah.
There's no reason you don't have to wait for everyone to take actions, so you're always doing something. There's not really any downtime at all.
Now, with that said, go ahead, Jeremy.
Now I'm not going to be the whole hummer of this all, but there is a thing of like this game you could cheat, and
sure.
That the thing is, because there's so much going on, you could forget to like we were talking about this in the car. We're talking about how you could forget to like pay for something, track, and you'd be like, oh no, I forgot to pay it. Well, thankfully the game is combo heavy, so you can make up for that the next round. But it's like there's things you'll forget, and you'll see you'll be going down so many tracks.
Right.
You will honestly forget some things. So I try to tell people like, but you also don't want to limit this game. It's such it should be a simultaneous game because you'd be waiting for people to go, and then I get this, and then I get that. And we don't like that kind of stuff. I think all gamers can agree we don't like that stuff.
I think
so.
The thing that I found, like, if we're going to talk about it, that was easiest to maybe not even cheat, but to make a mistake is that some buildings in some areas of the board require you to be at a certain level somewhere else. And it's easy to just get ahead of yourself and just keep marking and then realize, oh, I can't technically be marking these boxes off yet.
Yeah, there's a lot of prerequisites in the game, like all over the place. Right. And some of the areas where you want to start marking on, require not only one prerequisite, but maybe even a couple. And then even then, you have to keep sort of moving up this track in order to do more on these other tracks.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to get a vibe of what we're talking about here, this is only 1/2 of what you need to see.
Yeah, that is half of it.
That's half of it.
That's that Star Trek says there's too much comboing. I don't know if I agree with that.
This is a very heavy roller. It's a heavy one.
The other really cool thing,
really flipping right. It's flipping right.
Yeah.
The number of times we played this game, when it's all said and done, you'll see that one of your opponents did a completely different thing than you did. They may have gone a completely different route. That not only did you not just do a little, you may not have touched it at all. Like, you just didn't go that. The game does not allow you to do close to everything, if not even like 3/4 of the different things that are on the pages.
It also makes you make different like choices on the fly, which I like. You know, it doesn't say, hey, there's a lane strategy here. It doesn't even say there's a 2-lane strategy. You may unlock something that pushes your game in another way. I don't think what I like is there's no set strategy. There may be combos that you could take advantage of, but I don't feel like there's one set strategy. It feels good because that neutral deck in the middle will determine a lot of how the round goes. Like sometimes you're a little dry on specific types of guys. And then also the market change. So there's a market change because you have your decks as well. So how do you interact with other players? And there's just enough player interaction that keeps people interested, all the time. So that was a big major plus to me because I was just like, this is a roll and write. You're sitting there by yourself doing this and that. Mm-hmm. No, you need people to trade with sometimes. Yeah. No, you need people's cards to kind of like make up these little spots here as well. So you have these little things you may need for your little Tetris part of your board. And there's a lot that's done with these little decks.
Yeah.
More than I expected. More than I expected. So
trading is
really
super interesting.
Really interesting design.
Because you can trade with people. You can trade the little meeples, and you can trade stone. But you need to make sure that you've played cards that other players want. So there's an element of looking at somebody else's board and thinking, what do they need? Like, all the trade goods are numbered. David needs a 6. I'm looking at 2 cards in my hand. One of them is a 6. I might want to play that one.
Well, you might want to play it, but it's going to give me the 6 that I'm looking for. So it's definitely a double-edged sword.
And
the other cool
thing, extra stone. So you have to weigh that.
Jeremy mentioned this Tetris-like thing. There are so many things that I would almost describe as mini games that are happening on these sheets. You've got this little Tetris area where you're like collecting different shapes throughout the round or rounds and using them in this little grid to try to fill it up. That's one tiny little aspect of the game. Then the one that Jeremy took advantage of, gladiators, which is this whole thing where you're training up 2 gladiators and then you can actually send them to the arena to fight. And there's a bit of a little bit of push your luck here. But if you can sort of like utilize your gladiators round after round, they could ultimately die. They're still going to give you some victory points in one of a few different ways, but you might be able to get more victory points out of them throughout the entire game. Jeremy did that really well.
That worked out for me the game we played and didn't work out for me in another game.
Oh, really?
It just depends on how well your gladiators do, because your gladiators can take 1 damage at a time and survive for a long time, or they could take 3 and die on their first fight. So anyway, that's Hadrian's Wall. That was probably my favorite game. Well, I liked a lot of what we played actually, but this one is the one that I'm like ready to play over and over and over again. And it doesn't hurt that it's like an hour playtime after you teach it.
If you're looking, and we might do some content for this thing, I'm really itching to do maybe that's a similar. But if you're looking for a good flipping right, Hadrian's Wall's up there.
So this one's like more like a Euro. It's like a Euro / card game / worker placement. So if you're looking for heavier Euro type games, these roll and writes are a little bit heavier. This one and Fleet the Dice game and Hadrian's Wall are like, I think, way up there. Like they're heavier. They're not so like, just chuck it and whatever. A lot of interesting decisions to do with those. So yeah, there you go. Those are 3.
It's a good question, Jeremy, in the comments. Which one is your favorite, or which one do you think is the best?
Oh,
roll and writes
of those 3.
Oh boy, oh boy.
I think I have a bet. I think he's going to say Fleet.
I think it's Fleet the Dice game. It's just so combo heavy. It feels so good to play that game. Although I did get that similar rush when I played Hadrian's Wall.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. I got that similar rush. And news. There's a solo campaign, baby. Fresh off the presses. Shim just released this the other day. So you can do a little solo campaign with points and goals and stuff. It's free.
Okay, I want to do that.
Wow.
It's out now. This is a
but I want to do
solo
that.
game. It's perfect.
So yeah, check out Hadrian's Wall. Jeremy, I want you to talk about one specific game, and you brought it down here. It's the one that's that little box that you brought from Keymaster.
Oh, this little guy, Trails. Okay, so Trails is the new game by Keymaster Games. If you know them from Parks, if you know them from Space Park, if you know them from Campy Creatures, one of my favorite hand management games. Control, another really good game. They make really good games. Overall, Caper, which is like one of my favorite 2-player games nobody talks about. They have this small little box game that is exclusive to Target. It's only $20. And what this game is, it's similar to Parks. You're going to be traveling across these tiles. You'll be making one or two movement. You'll be picking up, something. So like acorn, I think it's, what is it? Acorn, stone, and something else.
Leaves.
Yeah.
Leaves.
That's it.
Across this track. And then they have this little new mechanic where you have a bear die mechanism where you have a bear die, you chuck it, and then it goes to another spot and you get the 2. Very easy and simple. But what happens in this game is as you get to the end of the track, now this little sun thing is moving across the top. And as it moves across the board, you'll flip over the tiles that you have, and those tiles will get more exciting. Like they have more stuff. Instead of just like, normal stuff, they'll double up that action or make it a better action in some cases. It's got that same feel. You buy cards. The cards make combos for set collection. You're also trying to get the most birds by taking pictures. And it's not like Parks. You just you turn on a resource, get the picture, or you just get a picture when you flip it over to the night side. So you're just taking pictures. And it simulates a walk in the park. It simulates walking on the trail. You're walking on the trail during the day. The board kind of slowly gets dark as you go back and forth through the trail. Makes sense. Players can take advantage of positioning as they go along. That's the game in a nutshell. I do enjoy this game, but this game has a lane to it. It's definitely trying to appeal to that mass market. It's going to be a small box in Target that you can see and you go, pretty. It looks like on the side, it looks like Parks. You know what I'm saying? Like it looks in there. This is a perfect end cap game. As a person who used to run a video game store, trust me, this is a perfect end cap game. And honestly, I like that night thing. Like I love that the board changes. That's one of my favorite about the game. And I also like that it's super quick. Now, as you get to 4 players, not so super quick, but I think
still
playing
pretty
this
quick
with your family, it's still pretty quick because it's still going to be less than an hour. And you can speed through it if you're one of those families. But I feel like if you're playing this with your family, I play this with my kid, it's just like done.
Sorry, David, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's all right. It's a pretty fast game. We even played it at 4 players, and the turns go pretty quickly. And like Jeremy said, you're moving back and forth. You're bouncing back and forth, and especially in a 4-player game, 2 players start at one end, 2 players start at the other end, and you're kind of and you go at various speeds so they can kind of sync up. But there are cards to complete at both ends, and you've got the canteen again. And what's kind of interesting is because it's so competitive to grab those cards at the end that are effectively contracts. One might pop up, and if you have a full canteen, you can just jet all the way to the end to try to grab that thing. And because these opportunities will pop up, and before you know it, those contract cards are gone when it comes back around to you. The game is very, very fast paced. And I would say, I agree with you, Jeremy. Like if you're versus Meeple, if you're a board gamer, if you're an enthusiast, and particularly if you have Parks, this might be a game. If you have Parks, you enjoy Parks, but you're not able to maybe get that to the table with just absolutely anyone. This is the game for the absolutely anyone crowd for sure. It's definitely a streamlined entry-level version, I think it's fair to say, of Parks.
That was exactly what I was going to say, David, because I love Parks. Parks had this great presentation. It's beautiful. The gameplay is deeply satisfying for as small of a game as Parks is. And so for me, I don't know that I really need Trails because I don't have like kids that I'd want to play that with or like casual gamers. Like my gaming group would play Parks. Like that's just what we do. Trails wouldn't have a home here, but I think that's what makes it so perfect for being like a Target exclusive is because, like you said, it's not being marketed to me. It's not being marketed to us. But the fact that we can still play it and enjoy it for a $20 Target game, I think that says a lot.
Yeah, and it's $20.
Right.
I mean, $20. Like that's an unbelievable price, particularly these days with games. I think we're probably going to see games, sad to say it, everybody, probably raising in prices a little bit across the board over the next year just because of all the issues going on. Yeah. Do I get to talk about my game?
I don't know. What's your game?
Go ahead. Well, I know what you're talking about. Go ahead.
I don't know if you do. We didn't technically play this over the weekend when Jeremy was here, but I did play it since, and so did Ryan.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about now.
Ryan and I played a live stream yesterday of Rift Force. This is a game that is coming out actually over here in the States later this year from Capstone. They're bringing it out. And you may have heard the name because it was one of the recommended titles in the Spiel this year. It wasn't a nominee, but it was one of the recommendations. And
I got that mixed up, personally.
Yeah, same here. This is a 2-player card battling game. And what I love about this is because I can tell you right now, unlike maybe the other two of these guys, I don't know about Jeremy, but I'm not a big Magic the Gathering guy. I've never played Ashes. I've always loved the idea of those games, but generally the people that I play games with don't. Those games are maybe a little bit much. Rift Force scratches a lot of those same itches. It's a 2-player head-to-head card battling game, kind of across lanes, and it's very simple. You're going to be drafting up guilds, what they call them, or factions, and each player is going to have 4 different factions. And those factions, you get one card that kind of tells you exactly what the faction does. So anytime you activate one of that type of faction's card, it's going to do the exact same thing every single time. And then your deck is comprised of all those different factions. And those are also very simple because, say, this one blue faction that's Thunder or Ice or something like that, you're going to have 4 5 cards. They have 5s, almost like a deck of cards. There's 5s, 6s, and 7s. You only get 2 7s, 3 6s, and 4 5s. And those numbers are effectively just their health. There's nothing else on those cards, so there's not a lot of text or anything you have to read. When you're playing cards, it's fairly straightforward. But it's got some cool aspects when you're playing cards and when you're activating cards. You can either activate up to 3 cards of the same faction or guild, or you can activate or play up to 3 cards of the same number. So once you get a bunch of cards out on your side of the rift, which is sort of what you're battling over, I might have a 5 that's of the Nature Guild, a 5 in the Ice Guild, and a 5 of the Thunderbolt Guild. And if I say I'm going to activate my 5s, I can activate all 3 of those cards in their lanes and do what they say. It's very, very cool. There's no way I can do this justice verbally. You absolutely have to play this game. I don't know when it's going to come out. I want to say Gen Con-ish. In fact, I think now that I'm remembering, I believe Capstone told me it's their big Gen Con release. So if you get a chance, take a look at our live stream. It'll really give you a sense of how the game is played.
Yeah, I have a question for you, David.
Yeah.
So Wednesday was yesterday, the first time that you had ever played the game.
Yeah.
Now today, Thursday, how many times have you played this game?
That actually, your question blows my mind because it feels like it was forever ago that you and I live streamed that. So Ryan and I live streamed that yesterday at noon. That was my first time ever playing it. I've played it 6 more times since then. All last night, none today, but I played a ton last night. I had a friend come over and he and I played it several times. And then when my son got home from band, I usually have to make him play a game, and I did make him play it. But afterward, he liked it so much. He's a senior in high school. If this tells you anything, he liked it so much he sat there and talked to me for like a half hour about all the sorts of different factions that they could possibly add. So I anticipate that this game, if it does well, there's a lot of design space for them to do more with it.
I just know
They're
that
called. You are now David Rift Bright. David Rift Forced.
I'm telling you,
You Rift forced him to play.
It's a lot of fun. It's one of those games
fun. It was
where
a great time.
you play it once, 3 times. Even after the 3rd or 4th time, I was seeing synergies between factions that I was like, oh my gosh. And then the last time I played late last night with my son, he absolutely schooled me with a couple of the factions, doing things with them that I just hadn't really considered. My sons absolutely destroy me at games when they do play, but yeah, this was their cup of tea for sure.
See, I'm the kind of person that when I finish playing a game, I like to kind of sit there and analyze it and think, what could I have done? What should I have done? And like I do that every time I play. David doesn't so much, but when he does, I know that he likes the game. And it was like, last night at midnight, I was getting a phone call saying, oh, I thought about all this Rift Force stuff I could have done or I should have done. And
it
that's
definitely,
how you know you like a game.
It definitely has me a little obsessed. I have a bit of an obsessive personality, and when I get sucked into something, it's all I talk about for the next at least day and a half. So you guys are catching me on the last part of that day and a half. So what's next? Well, I've got
we got lots to talk about.
Jeremy, you have a lot more.
Trust me, when you let me loose, I have tons of games.
Jeremy, go loose with all of the games you played after this weekend.
Okay, so this is the key. And if you know, I love llamas. I love alpacas more. But anyway, this is Sabotage at Lucky Llama Land. And what you're doing in this game, and this is by Haba. Now, I love Haba games, but I love their game night series games, like games that are low-key really good, like Honga, Mountains, these types of games like that nobody talks about because they think, oh, Haba kids games and whatever. These are awesome, fun games for families. And this one right here is like home run, okay? Really? Home run situation. What you're doing is you're having like these cases, and they all have to do with these keys. You get 9 keys in the box. And what you're doing is you have all these cards splayed out. Every card in the box, every card is splayed around in this circle. And then you have like this little thing. And then what you're doing is just taking cards. Everybody's just playing simultaneously, taking cards that match the color. You want to definitely grab one that matches the color on this code here. And it'll show you what case it's for. Hold on a second. Let me get a little closer. You see that number 2 up there? It'll show you the strength of the clue. Okay, so it'll say, hey, this right here, this person was at the swing this time doing whatever. And then what you're trying to do is match it up by deduction with these pictures and stuff on here. I want to know what happens on these 3 days. Did so-and-so do this with this weapon at this location?
Is that a llama? Is that a llama that I hear right now?
Schnauzer. You even get a map of you get a map. You get a book that shows you like the shoe size of different characters and stuff like that. So you can match them up on the cards because they give you stronger and stronger evidence based on the number. And then what will happen is you just start to deduce this stuff. And then whenever you think you're right, this is the cool part. Whenever you think you're right, you have these things circled. You put a decoder number based on what you thought it is. Take the key and put it through one of these holes and fake turn the key. But what you're going to do is you're going to find out what the solution is on the back. Okay? That will tell you whether you got the answer or not.
Huh.
That's cool.
That's pretty
That's
neat.
so cool.
That is
Like,
pretty
that's
cool.
pretty neat. You're like, oh, it's 142. And then somebody turns the key and they go, they have a little mirror where you can see it. And it's like, nope, that's not right. And then if you get it right, everybody looks at their cards. They count up how many points they use to get to it. And whoever has the least points wins.
Oh, wow.
Huh.
There's 9 cases. So each box is 9 cases. So it's not the same.
Yeah.
And that's the cool part.
Jeremy, what's the theme of the llama one? Because I talked to Haba just the other day. They're sending me a different one that is sort of the murder one.
So this one here is like mischievous crime. So it's like they did a crime. It doesn't really, it says, but it's like this one is more so the theme is just like kids at a park and they've done some crime. And then like even they give you like pictures, like this is, you have to look for visual clues. Stuff like that. So this one is at Llama Land. Somebody messed up some stuff at Llama Land. There's no pictures of like damage or people getting hurt or anything like that.
No, there's nothing like that. I do know
violent or brutal or anything.
I was told that even in the one that I'm getting sent, which is maybe and when I say edgy, it's not edgy at all. But there's one image of like a pair of glasses that maybe had a little blood on them. But that's
that's edgy for Haba. That's like dark territory for Haba.
I mean, I'm just gonna say it's red paint.
Sure.
So they have 3 of these boxes. They have one that's called like Oakdale, something like that, something of Oakdale.
Like
and then there's one I think that's in a jungle. So I'm just down for this stuff. Like, I mean, you got like everybody likes all these other ones. By the way, they do have an exit game now that has actual puzzle in it, like a puzzle, like a full-on make a puzzle to help solve the mystery.
Like a
straight up like 50
like
to 100 puzzle, like a jigsaw puzzle attached in the box. Yeah, but this right here is taking the cake for me right now because it's got such a fun element. My son and I played with my game group. You're talking about, the smug dudes, who are like, oh, I don't know if I want to play this. Yeah, people went from like, there was one guy, he went from frustrated to being like, this is fun, Like, yeah, I mean, like everybody was like, oh, this is good. So then we did more than one case because they were like, hey, this is fun. I think that game is really, really good, really good. All right, I'm moving on to the next one. Here we go.
Is it Almanac? Yes,
it's Almanac. All right, so
this is dying to talk about Almanac.
This is Almanac: The Dragon Road. This is a game that I feel like is the most slept on game there is, like right now. I played it at work for a straight week with my buddy, who's at work. He's perfect because he's like a new mind, and I get to like mold it with games.
Oh no!
So every time we play something, he's like, "Let's play it," and we played Ashes for a straight week. I was like, "Why don't we play him again?" He's like, "Fine, we'll play through all the decks." I'm like, "All right, we'll play through all the decks." We're playing through this one here, and what this is like it's a journey down this road. This, by the way, it's designed by Scott Holmes, so that's there you go. That's that pedigree if you like his stuff. So you got this stuff. You got this like little journey, like a map, like near and far. And what happens is, as you go on this journey, you're going to have different worker placement games that happen at each one. Each one of them has their own set of rules. So you're going to be kind of going through this board, and then things are just different on each one. So what happens is you're playing different types of games with small little rule changes that eventually adds up to like this culminating event. And it's how you use those resources at the end that gives you this score. Now, the cool part is that whoever wins the game gets to make a choice on what path you go down. There's 16 in here, so you're not going to, I think there's 17 because it's like you get to choose between the two and kind of figure out your path. So it'll be different for a while, like after 5 games or so, you've probably seen all of them, but your journey will be different based on people's choices. And I just found this game. We played it the whole week, man. Like 2 players, we played the whole week. I didn't get tired of it. I had a fun time. But I said to myself, after I played this like 5 times, I was like, will this game run out of punch? Like will it run out of its flavor? And I think it might. But here's the thing, like, I think it might, but they got an expansion coming out. When I put the post out for this, they were like, oh, no, we got an expansion coming out on Kickstarter, August 3rd. I'm like, all right, then. Like, sign me up. Sign me up for that. Like, it was perfect. Whereas, like, I probably, because I burned through it, like, several times. So I was like, I mean, who does that nowadays, play a game for a straight week?
Sure.
I do. I do. So... yeah, so I played it for the whole week. I don't think anybody's going to do that. I think they're going to play it and enjoy it. But yeah, I think this game is really, really freaking sweet. You guys, I mean, that one there is one to check out.
For you.
Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
Well, I just wanted to make sure because I've never played it. Like you said, this was super under the radar. Mm-hmm. Is that how many games is it that you play in one sitting to go from like start
campaign
to end?
You pretty much play like 8 games, 7, 8 games. Because it's like these games are all like 15, they're like 15 minutes because it really lasts about just over an hour.
So the whole thing is like an hour per play.
Yeah, just over an hour.
To end. Okay.
But you might not go to the same pages, Ryan.
Right.
Like it depends on what you do. I'd forgotten, but I had played this game in April when Alicia and I went away for a week, and we didn't play through the whole thing, but it is really unique the way some of the worker placement pages work. I think even the one that we had the photo of, there's this one that I remember that was like a canyon with these bridges across the canyon. Yep. And it really had some interesting timing going on because there might be a spot that you're wanting to go to, and you're just hoping someone goes to the spot next to it because you had to kind of fill the spots in consecutively, and you couldn't get there. But you could try to start going from the other side of the canyon or something like that. So it was a little more thinky, and I have to say, while I'm not the biggest fan of the Tiny Epic games, I did like what they were doing with this, and I love the concept overall. I thought it was really cool.
All right, I got one more, although I have like 5, but I have one more.
Do one more, and then we'll talk about the biggie.
So this one right here is Furnace. Okay, so Furnace is actually out by Hobby World. It's coming. It's coming to the U.S. In August. They've been taking pre-orders for it for a while. This is one of the shipping things that's going on right now. So really stinks. It's probably should have been here like now, but it's punted. They're punted on it because it's probably sitting in the middle of the ocean somewhere now. So not in the ocean, sitting on a boat in the ocean. But anyway,
they're floating over.
So this one right here, man, this is an awesome, like, kind of go-to 45-minute game. What you're doing in this game is you're bidding on cards. And what'll happen is you get a 1, 2, 3, and 4. They got big to small discs. And what you're doing is putting them on top of this display of 10 or 8 cards. So they're like these cards right here. Now, the cool part is that you can't put the same number on that card. So you put a 4 on there, nobody can put a 4 on there. But everybody who puts another number on that card gets the resources on top. Meanwhile, the person who has the high number gets the card.
Oh, so, I like that.
I like that, right? So what happens is you have a whole bunch of people kind of waiting and faking out and kind of deciding like, ooh, he put a 3 on there. Okay, I'll put a 2 on there. Like, ooh, now that he put a 4 on there, I can put my 3 on there. And what will happen is that becomes a multiplier. So whatever I have on here right now, you would get that times 3. So you're like, oh, okay, cool, right? So it becomes a little dodgy game where you don't want to be the first player, like ever, unless you really want a specific card, right? So what'll happen is you get these cards and you put them in your own little area, and I call it running your engine, which probably fits for this game's theme. So what you're doing is you put the cards, you lay them out and however you want, and then you start triggering resources. And you can take a card, and then you can take that card, and then you pay like an upgrade thing, and you flip it over, and it becomes a better card. And you just start triggering this stuff, making a combo of resources. The game is short, so it's like I don't even get a chance to build up my engine that fast. But you kind of have to win cards and not necessarily piggyback off cards. So it's a little bit of a balance there. But the other night, I had someone win with like 5 cards, 5, 6 cards. Other people had like 10 cards, and it's just how you find this engine, this game. And I just found it. I find this game. It feels like a swing and a miss for some people. Like the game's so short. Sometimes games that are so short, they don't. It's like Lost Ruins of Arnak, where a game it feels so short to some people, and then other people are like, "Dude, I'm just getting combos for days. What are you talking about?" And I'm the same way. Like, I like these types of games where I can get good with what I got, and maybe that gives me a better advantage than people who are planners, because I have a lot of people in my game group who are planners, and if their plan doesn't work out, they well, I'm the guy who kind of flies by the seat of their pants, so this one plays into my strengths a little bit.
But I think you just hit it on the nose exactly why it didn't sit as well with me, or like why it didn't hit me like it hit you. And this is my problem I have with a lot of engine builders. I feel like the moment that I finally find the engine and I trigger the engine and it feels so good, and then it's game over. And you're like, oh, okay. Like, I got to use it one time. And the fun for me is actually using the engine. David, we talked about this with that space race game that we played. Like, I want my engine to be satisfying from turn 1. Even if it's just like 2 cards that form a little mini engine.
Yeah.
But what Jeremy said is the strategy of Furnace, or like the hard part of Furnace, is looking through all the cards, seeing what's available, seeing what you have in front of you, and finding those engines. And sometimes it can be easier than others. You can have somebody that makes an engine that uses 3 or 4 cards, and my engine might take 12, and I'll get that 12th card on the last turn of the game, and then it all just works. But I just want it to go. Like, I want to be able to use my engine more. I actually wish that game was maybe a little longer.
Hey, Ryan, dude, next time when you play, I got a big tip for you. Get good. All right, let's go. Get good. All right.
It's not that I don't like everyone at the table can do good. Like, I mean, it's not like a super hard game, and I do like it a lot. I just wish it was more to it. I wish it was longer. That's all. That's really where it sits with me. I want like a deeper engine building experience. But
Ryan,
I wouldn't say no to Furnace.
One tip: get good.
Oh boy! Oh boy! Look at that. He's got the pinky up and everything.
All right, I'm out.
All right, so we're going to talk about one more game, and this is what we spent a lot of time playing on Saturday. One of the things, this will be something that it was a while. This will be posting on the channel probably in the next month or so as a round one. But we played Agamonia.
Yeah.
If you haven't heard of this game, this is a big campaign adventure co-op game. What would you compare this most? I mean, it's kind of Gloomhaven-esque, right?
It's more Jaws of the Lion-esque than
yes,
it is
that's true.
Or Jaws of the
Gloomhaven, but yeah.
And Ryan, I think you have some pictures to throw up here, but we played. They gave us a set of tutorial missions that were basically 3 scenarios that kind of teach you the game. And the first scenario just kind of like let you explore a little bit and do some skill checks and things like that. The game is highly, highly narrative. In fact, I think if I were to say one aspect that really sets it apart, it's that narrative aspect. And then the second scenario introduced combat. The first one didn't even have any. And then so we had the combat and the checks. And then the third scenario kind of brings it all together. Yeah. It had everything, made things a little tougher. The scenarios obviously string together. And this was just a sampling of what this overall game is going to be. We're going to have a first look for it in the very near future, just to give you a little bit better taste of it. But we wanted to tell you about it now because the 3 of us spent a good portion of our day playing through all those scenarios and then trying to pick the best parts out of that footage for the round one.
It's tough.
We did play all day, really.
Yeah, it was. It was a good day of Agamonia.
I'll tell you right this is my perspective from solo gaming stuff. Like, I think this game is totally manageable solo. It's got that 3-hand thing because this game has simple turns. I mean, you're taking one action or the other action, or the other set of actions. It's like one action or another set of actions. And then they also open it up where you're building your actions, like extra actions as you go along. And they do a good job of like ushering that in. No matter what, you're not going to have these insane amount of choices until you get to the level up stuff, which we didn't get a chance to see that much of at all. So I would tell you that what I like about this game, and it's what I love about Jaws of the Lion, is you get that feeling of like good gameplay, and then they like unlock it for you. And when you see it all let go, you go, holy cannoli, this is great. Okay? Like, this has some big potential. And that is just one still training scenario. And I was like, hard. But I agree with you, David, on that on the story part, which I really did enjoy, that idea of going to spots. And this is what happens. Like, when you go to these, like, what happens in this thing is you move it across the board. And even when you're near certain things, you activate a part of the story. Yeah. And then you can either pursue that or not. And then you can even, and this is one of the coolest parts about this game, you can you take story cards and you put them on the board, and it changes the look of the board.
Yeah.
I was like, that's pretty freaking cool. So it's like, I'm not going to spoil any of that for you, but the thing is that you can take the cards and put them on the board, and it changes maybe what you've done, or this is something you need to do now. And you just have a lot of choices to make. You're up against time sometimes.
Yeah, the choices were really cool. And what Jeremy just said, let me describe a little bit more the carrots that keep getting dangled. These will happen even in the middle of your move. So you might be taking an action or what they call a maneuver to move across the board, trying to get to a location that we think we are wanting to get to. and then you come within sort of a range to trigger this other point. So you pause your movement, you flip that card over, and someone reads it, and it describes something else going on, and that might divert your attention. You might like, actually, you know what? I am actually going to go that way. And sometimes those are carrots that are worth following. Sometimes they're not. But like in the first scenario, there's a bunch of different things, and you are working against sort of a time limit of rounds in that scenario. The following scenario, you weren't. The following scenario just you needed to accomplish a certain objective, and that's how it ended. And then the third scenario we played, it basically told us at the very beginning, you'll know when you know. Like we didn't know. We just had to start playing and hope that we understood what we were accomplishing. And it really did play out that way.
Yeah. When you talk about those cards, like it's not always just like here's a thing. Sometimes you'll flip over a card and it's like an event or something crazy happens that changes the board or gives you a threat to deal with or spawns enemies. And this leads to some like really cool narrative moments, because when you're talking about narrative games, like I think narrative games are great in the games that just like, okay, you flip a card, you read it, and there's story for every chapter. There's a thread that links all the chapters together. But what really makes a narrative game good, for me at least, is giving your characters the ability to make cool narrative moments on their own. And we had some really cool narrative moments that weren't scripted by the game, that just happened because we made certain decisions, we found certain items and found clever ways to use them. I mean, I'm never going to forget that, moment where Jeremy's just running towards that boss that we had to fight. He's just like, I'm going to fight.
I'm a Leroy Jenkins character. I'm a Leroy Jenkins player. Okay? You got to worry about what I may do. Unfortunately, I'm that kind of cooperative player. That's why I play solo most of the time.
You know what I said? I was like, this is a co-op game. But Jeremy, you did really well. You didn't try to play any of our hands or anything. So,
and on that note, one of the times Jeremy ran forward, it actually, in a very cool way, had an impact on things that then unfolded. I don't want to describe it entirely, but it had to do with monsters that were going to be spawning. And had he not been overly aggressive at the beginning, we determined that there would have been a lot more monsters that spawned all at once. As opposed to sort of slowly trickling out, which is really cool to see how the game was reacting to how we were playing a scenario, which was pretty sweet, I thought. And we haven't even touched on the stamina chips, which we'll save for the first look. We'll tell you a little bit more about the game, but it has a really cool mechanic with these stamina chips, because there are dice, but there is a massive amount of way to mitigate these things. The dice don't have. I don't even know. The dice had. I think they had. Did they not have any?
Dice don't have misses.
Yeah, the hit dice don't have misses.
Actually do.
So the hit dice. Well, again, we'll save it. We'll save it for another day.
There's a lot to unlock in this game, man. I mean,
but there is a lot to talk about the game. So stay tuned for that. Anyone else have any other games, or do we have any comments that we want to talk about?
I got one I have to talk about.
Okay.
Just one more thing. By the way, I love that definition. I am not a character. I'm the wild card.
That is the drink again.
Anyway, all right. One more.
Please, people in the comments, don't encourage him.
I don't encourage me. All right. Anyway.
Oh yeah, he's got to talk about this.
This one right here. This is. We may have something about solo games coming up soon, but I'm telling you right now, like this is awesome. Okay, so this is coming very soon, if not right now. If people are right now trying to get this over here, like by UK, anybody that can order it, because I don't think the pre-orders are fulfilling yet. So everybody's trying to order it from over there to bring it here. So what Imperium is, there's actually a system. I have another box behind me. There's 2 of them, and then inside of them they have 8 decks. They represent like not the Mongols, but like different traditional backgrounds, and then they also have like the mythical ones, like the people of Atlantis. All these like mythical civilizations. One that's looking for Shangri-La. There's one that's looking for like all these lost city, anything, right? What you're doing in this game is you're playing out the history of them. So you go from like a barbaric state, you're buying cards, you're creating lands or territories and things like that. and you're trying to build these card combos. And then what you're trying to do is get through your deck, because the nation deck is like your evolution. So it's like it's a deck evolution, okay? Like deck building, but a deck evolution. Because some cards you may even buy that you can't use until you become a civilized state. What will happen is you're buying these cards, whatever, you're buying these cards, you're trying to burn through your deck as fast as possible because you're like, I just want to discard these cards. Some of the cards that you have are called unrest. So you can have a complete revolt if you want to, by having all these unrest cards come through in the game. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that, except for the barbarians. Maybe they want that. So it's like there's certain decks that stay in a barbaric state. There's certain ones that even start in a civilized state. In the civilized cards, when you flip over, like let's say like the Romans, when they get to who has Alexander the Great? What culture has Alexander the Great? Greece. When you get to the Alexander the Great, it flips over to civilized, because that's like a moment in history where things change, and all of a sudden you have cards that you can buy for point combos. So now you're trying to get through those developments so you can develop your history. And then that's how the game will end once you get through those decks. Or you have revolts and you want to be barbaric, right? Like the Vikings. And then like, I would just say this. This game can get long as all hell. Because, I mean, you're talking about people really like thinking out their turns. This is not a simultaneous game because it can affect the market that's in front of you. It's got some really interesting decisions. I'm not going to go into that too deep. But each deck represents a different way to play that game. And you're playing that together. And I'll just say this. If you're a person that loves solo games, David Turtsey and the other guy, Nigel Buckle, and then David Turtsey designed the solo mode. This is like one of his best that you can play solo.
That's high praise.
You can enjoy each deck that way and get good, like Ryan should be at these games, right? That's the reason why I'm willing to cape for this game pretty hard. It does have a challenging rule book. When I say challenging, is challenging. But you can literally read through the rule book and be like, I don't know how to play this game. Like, there's a lot of terms. That's the reason why, is because there's a lot of terms that are very specific to different cultures, like the different decks. So you're like, wait, does this mean this for that, or this? I don't know what I'm doing. Like, how does a turn work? There's a great video by John Gets Games out there that walks you through that. It's perfection. Okay. And then Paul Rogan did a really great solo playthrough. He actually did one that wasn't so great, followed by one that was great. And it's because he was learning. He was kind of learning on the fly. And then the other one, he learned really well. And then he played one with David Turtsey himself, I believe, and then and Nigel. So I got to learn this game deeply, got into it. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. It's not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. If you're looking for one to get, you want to get the classics one first, because it's got the easier stuff in there. Whereas the other one has like the more complicated decks. But I mean, honest with you, get both. All right.
Wow. I think we're talking to them about doing a live stream of one of the boxes, probably the classic one here sometime in the next month or so. So I'm really excited to get that one in and play, because that's been on my most anticipated list for a while, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah,
well,
that's right up there.
I think we're going to wrap it there, unless anyone has. Not you, Jeremy. We got to put a cap on you.
That was a lot of games.
Jeremy's looking for another game.
Well, you should see. I got videos coming for Terraforming Mars, for War Room, which just came in. War Room 2nd Edition. Chronicles of Drunagar just came in. So I got videos coming over the next week for sure.
I have a cryo review coming next week. Stay tuned.
We even did play a little cryo while he was here too.
Oh, yeah, we played Maglev Metro. We played so many games, we can't possibly talk about all of them in an hour.
We can't. So. Maybe we'll save some of those for the next time.
Right. War Room live stream.
Yeah, if you guys will stick through for an 8-hour-long live stream, maybe we'll consider it.
I don't want to ask anyone to endure something like that.
You know what? People would watch. There are people that get really into those games.
That's really, true. You know what's weird is people would actually watch that. I'm serious. Like, they would. They really would.
Well, in terms of watching, you're going to be done watching episode 83 of Chit Chat here in a couple seconds. I do want to remind everyone, definitely put some comments down below so you have a chance to win Jaws of the Lion and the jigsaw puzzle and the sticker sheet. Thank you again to Cephalofair for offering that up for the giveaway.
That's huge.
Very
Great
cool. Until next time, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.